Hey, I'm Amlipsha. I hope you all are doing well. Let's start the part C of chapter 3, class 11 psychology.
Hello everyone. Today we are going to start the last part or the part C of chapter 3, the basis of human behavior. So the topic is endocrine system. We all know that our body has certain specific chemical substance called as hormones and that control our behavior. These hormones are actually secreted by certain ductless glands or endocrine glands. Now, if someone asks what do you mean by duct? Now, duct is a passage in our body through which the fluid passes. Now, why it is called as ductless gland? Because they don't have certain specific passage to send or circulate the hormones to the specific body parts. The hormones are directly circulated through the bloodstream. Now this endocrine system also works with while coordinating with different parts of the nervous system. As a result, it is called as neuroendocrine system. The next topic is about pituitary gland. Now, for better understanding, I am going to divide the information into three parameters. First is going to be their location, second is going to be what it consists of, and third is going to be their function. Now, from location point of view, pituitary gland is within the cranium or the hard bony skull, just below the hypothalamus. Now, what it consists of? It consists of anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. The function is that anterior pituitary is actually connected with hypothalamus and they help to regulate the hormonal secretion. The pituitary gland releases growth hormone and many other hormones which regulate the secretion of hormones in different endocrine glands. That's why pituitary gland is also called as master gland of our body. Now the hormones sometimes get secreted throughout the lifetime and some are secreted at a specific time. For example, the growth hormone starts from our childhood and sometimes it persists during our adolescence. Other example is your gonadotrophic hormone, which actually starts when we hit puberty, and it helps to stimulate appropriate sex hormones among boys and girls. Then comes our thyroid gland. Now the location is that it is present in the neck. The function is that the thyroid gland secretes thyroxine, which influence our body's metabolic rate. Now optimum amount of thyroxine is secreted and regulated by an anterior pituitary hormone, which is called as thyroid stimulating hormone or TSH. Now, it also helps in production of the energy, consumption of oxygen and eliminating waste from our body cells. Underproduction of thyroxine can actually lead to certain psychological and physiological lethargy, that you may feel that you don't have proper or the right amount of energy to carry out your day-to-day activity. Now this may happen because of this, and if the thyroid glands are removed from young animals, their growth is stunted and they may fail to develop sexually. The next topic is about adrenal gland. The location is that it is present above each kidney. Now it consists of adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. The function is that adrenal cortex secretion is actually controlled and regulated by an hormone called as adrenocorticotropic hormone ACTH, which is secreted by anterior pituitary gland. Now they also secrete a group of hormones which is called as corticoids, and they are involved in a number of physiological activities in our body. For example, regulating minerals in our body, especially sodium, potassium, chlorides and so on. Then comes your adrenal medulla. Now they secrete two hormones, which is adrenaline and noradrenaline. The sympathetic activation like oxygen consumption, metabolic rate, they are actually stimulated by this, and this too stimulate the hypothalamus, for which the emotions in an individual persist or prolongs even after the stressor is removed. For example, you got scolded by your parents and you felt humiliated, you felt distressed, and all kind of overthinking just hits in your mind. But even after 3 hours or 4 hours, when your parents are actually engaged in carrying their day-to-day activities, you are still feeling sad, you are still crying, you still are feeling humiliated. So it is because of this adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. See, these two are to be blamed. Then comes your pancreas. Now the location is that it lies near the stomach. The function is that it helps in digestion of the food, because the insulin helps the liver to break down the glucose for the use by the body, or to store glycogen in the liver. Now we all know that our body can't digest the complex fat or the complex protein, and then it is break down into fatty acids or protein into amino acids. So here it helps to break down the glucose. Now if optimum amount of insulin is not secreted, then an individual develops a disease which is called as diabetic mellitus, or simply diabetes. Then comes your gonads. The location is that it is present in the lower abdominal area or between the thighs. It consists of testes in male and ovaries in female. The function are that these hormones help in the sexual behavior, and they regulate reproductive function among males and females. The hormones are actually secreted and maintained by gonadotrophic hormone, which is secreted by anterior pituitary gland. The ovaries in female, they produce estrogen and progesterone. The estrogen helps in the sexual development of the female body, whereas progesterone regulates the preparation of uterus for possible reception of fertilized ovum. The testes in male, they produce sperm continuously, and they secrete male sex hormone called as androgens. The next topic is heredity, genes and behavior. Now if someone asks what do you mean by genetics, now genetics is actually the study of inheritance of physical and psychological characteristics from our ancestors. Now it can be their food pattern, it can be their physical appearance, it can be their psychological characteristics. Now for example, our ancestors, they had that survival instinct for fire. They always considered that as a threat to their life. So that's why almost all of us, we feel threat when we come across fire, because there is that survival instinct for it, that we have to escape from that situation. And it is not because of fear only, it is also because of our genetics. Chromosomes are the hereditary elements of our body. They're actually thread-like pair structures which are present in the nucleus of the cell. The gametic cells has 23 chromosomes, but they are not in pair. The 23rd chromosome of the sperm cell, it can be either X or Y of the English alphabet. Now XX 23rd chromosome will be female and XY 23rd chromosome will be a male. Now the chromosomes are actually composed of a substance which is called as DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid. Then comes your genes. Now every chromosome has thousands of genetic commands in the form of genes. Now genes are actually specific proteins which regulate physiological process and expression of phenotypical traits. Now phenotypical traits means the observable traits or characteristics of an organism, like for example my facial features, my physical strength, my behavior, like which can be seen outwardly. The other part is genotype, means the characteristics or the traits which can be passed on to offspring through genetic material. So we have all biological and psychological characteristics because of genotype, inheritance and phenotypical variation. Now a gene can be in different forms, and this change of forms is actually called as mutation. Now why a mutation is necessary? Because it helps us to know that which combination of genotype and phenotype can actually help an organism to have better survival levels, or which can be the best fit in the environment. The next topic is about the concept of culture. Now, culture is actually the man-made part of the environment. It helps us to know about certain material objects like tools, sculptures, ideas like categories, norms, and social institutions like your schools and other educational institutions are covered there. Apart from that, if you will consider the room in which you are sitting and watching my video, it is actually rectangular in shape. But it is not that in every culture, if you will look, the housing style is going to be same, because there is cultural influence. For example, look at the igloos in which the Eskimos live. Now when you consider schools also, so in most of the schools in urban areas, there are bench and desk in which the students sit and read. However, it is not the same scene when you consider the rural areas. Now if you are also going to know about the authentic Japanese architecture, there is no chair at all. So in this way you can understand that all the things we are surrounded of are actually a cultural product. It is not that the human beings are only the passive recipient of it, but they also create the context in which it shapes their behavior. I have used the word culture and society a number of times. Now, from a layman's perspective, they feel more or less the two words are actually same or they are synonyms. However, there is a difference. Now, society means a group of people who live in a particular territory. They speak a common language which is different from other neighboring people. Now, the society may or may not be a whole nation, but every society has its own culture. That is the culture that shapes the behavior of the people. Next topic is about enculturation. Enculturation refers to all learning that takes place without direct or deliberate learning. Now, these are the activities which are already present in our socio-cultural context. For example, what is vegetable, what is fruit, what is pulses, what is cereals. Now, these are the levels which were already present, and that's why very smoothly it got transmitted to the next generation. Now, the very common example is learning by observing other people. Now, in Indian family, complex activities like cooking is actually learned by observing the other person. I still remember that once my mom was not well and she asked me to prepare dal. Definitely I was blank about it, but then I just remember how my mom used to prepare it, and fortunately I did that. Now, while self-introspecting, I got an idea that it was not a deliberate learning. I was not aware that I am going to learn it, and there was not specific instruction books that how you are going to prepare it. I just observed, and I was not aware in my conscious level that I am going to use it at a later stage, but I learned it. So it is an example of enculturation in day-to-day activity. The next topic is socialization. Socialization is a process in which the individuals they acquire the knowledge, the skill and disposition to become effective members of the society and the group. The most common example of it is linguistic behavior. There are socialization agents as well. These are the people who possess the power to socialize us. This include your parents, teachers, your peer groups and other elders. The process of socialization is not always smooth between the individuals and the socialization agents. Now, there are certain behaviors which get rewarded and the other behaviors get punished as well. For example, you just learn the behavior to touch the feet of your elders. Now, if you are going to do that, then definitely you are going to be praised and rewarded to actually conform to the societal norms. Whereas if you are not going to do that and you are going to refuse it, definitely you are going to get scolding from your parents and some kind of punishment. So both reward and punishment becomes a basic means of shaping one's behavior. So in this way, socialization takes place. Now we have to remember that the person doesn't only go through a socialization process once in a lifetime. There are chances that the person can go through re-socialization in latter stage, which is called as acculturation. Now there is an example of learning language. Now when you are learning your mother tongue, which is already present in your socio-cultural context, now then it is enculturation. When you are trying to learn any language apart from your mother tongue, like you are trying to learn French, German, English, Korean language, so in this case it is a process of socialization. The next topic is socialization agents. The first one is your parents. Now parents are the, they have the most direct and powerful influence in child's development. They may actually encourage the child by praising them verbally or intangible ways by buying them things or toys which they like. They may actually also discourage certain behavior by ignoring it, by not praising it, or by using some kind of punishment. Now while interacting with children, they adopt certain kind of approach which is commonly called as parenting style. For example, if it is authoritative, then there is higher degree of control. If it is authoritarian, then there is higher degree of acceptance. And if it is democratic, there is higher degree of both acceptance and control. Apart from that, grandparents also influence the process of socialization among small children. Next is school. Definitely school also plays an important role in socialization among children because they spend a lot of time in it. Now school not only develops cognitive skills like reading, writing, doing mathematics, but they also develop social skills like how to behave with juniors, seniors, elders, age mates, what are the accepting roles, responsibility, like you get the responsibility to be the monitor and all. So in this way they also teach us or develop social skills among us. Now it is believed that if the transaction is fine in school among the peers and teachers, then it can actually have a positive influence in other domains of their life. That's why researchers believe that a good school plays an important role in nurturing one's personality at an initial stage. Next topic is about the peer group. Definitely it is the most important or chief characteristics in the middle childhood stage. That's why friendship plays an important role. It not only gives you an opportunity to be in company with others who are of your age, to discuss about the things, to organize various activities like plays, like skits and so on. Now it helps to accept your own identity, it helps you to accept your own point of view and also to be self-assertive in nature. Since the interaction with the peer group is direct in nature, that's why this socialization process is smooth among them. The last socialization agent is media influence. Definitely we can't deny the statement that technology is now an integral part of our life. Now the children, they actually try to learn from books, from environment, but gradually when they enter the stage of adolescence and adulthood, they try to derive their models from them, like from cinemas, from other social media or television. Now it plays an important role in integrating or influencing their behavior. And there can be negative influence as well. There can be body image issues where they try to change themselves physically or psychologically to something that they are not. And also, if there is a lot of aggressive content in television and the adults or the children, they are consuming it, definitely it's going to have a negative influence in their behavior, and researchers have also proved it. So we need to have a very holistic and very proper approach about how to use this media to avoid developing some undesirable behavior among children. Next topic is acculturation. Acculturation refers to the cultural and psychological changes that takes place when we try to have any contact with people of other culture. It can happen at any point of time in our life, and also it can happen in multi-directional approach. Now it can be described at both subjective and objective level. In subjective level, it can be seen from the changes in attitude, which is called as acculturative attitude. In objective level, it can be understood by changes in our day-to-day behavior and how we carry out other activities. According to John Berry, there are two important issues that a person going through an acculturation process can face. First is the desire to retain one's own cultural identity. Second can be the desire to engage in the activities of other cultures' people. Based upon the positive and negatives, there are four acculturative strategies. First is integration. It refers to an attitude in which the person has interest in both retaining its own cultural identity as well as to have a daily interaction with people of other culture. It develops a positive cultural integrity among them. The second one is assimilation. In assimilation, it refers to an attitude where the person do not wish to retain its own cultural identity and they tend to discard it and move to some other culture. For example, you have seen a lot of people who actually give up their religion, who actually give up their culture and tend to adopt something else. So it is an example of assimilation. Next is separation. In separation, the person places a greater value for their own cultural identity. They boast about, they glorify about their own culture, and they just tend to avoid having any kind of interaction with people of other culture. You may have come across a lot of people who just glorify about their culture, that my culture is this, my culture is powerful, my culture is influential. So it is an example of your separation. The fourth one is marginalization. In marginalization, the person has little interest in their own cultural identity and they also have little interest in having interaction with people of other culture. In short, they have a very undecided nature or attitude about it, that what they have to do and what they have to avoid, and they are usually under a lot of pressure. We have to remember that genes plays an important role in biological transmission and memes plays an important role in cultural transmission. Now from memes, I don't mean the things that you follow and see in social media pages. In psychology, memes means it is a idea, it is a piece of culture or behavior which has the power to replicate in the future generation. Right? So with this, I want to end this video. Chapter 3 is finally completed. Okay, so if you like my explanation, please like this video, comment down your doubts. I would love to solve it all. You can follow me in Instagram, you can join the Telegram channel. All of this, they are present, all of this are mentioned in the description, and I will link down the handwritten notes as well. With this, bye and have a great day.